Your fever is high, and the pressure to log in at work is too. But when you finally decide to take care of you, there's Instacart. Just because that one perfect coworker of yours is attending all meetings, camera on while she's sneezing, coughing, and aching, doesn't mean you have to do the same. Take it from us. Trying to stay on top of things will only get you further behind. Instead, get everything from tissues and teas to cough suppressants and comforting soups delivered through Instacart in as fast as 30 minutes. If anyone needs anything, they can just redirect their questions to that one perfect coworker of yours.
My 13-year-old acts like a puppy again. Almost overnight, she's a different dog.
Perfect poops.
When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply real meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of highly processed pellets. No tricks, just smarter, healthier pet food delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do. Get 50% off your first order at thefarmersdog.com/NoMagic50.
This is Kansas State's Cooper Beebe, and you're listening to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribing to this show on your favorite podcast provider.
Welcome to your final PowerCat Postgame Podcast of the 2022 season. Hell, it's 2023 as we record this.
How about that?
Tim Fitzgerald, Cole Carmody in the Sheraton Downtown Hotel in New Orleans following Kansas State's 45-20 loss to Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. I don't sound the best today, and I did absolutely nothing last night, Cole. I was in bed at the stroke of midnight.
Did you hear all the fireworks?
I heard fireworks. I was hoping it was fireworks.
It sounded like a war zone in our hotel room. We're right down by Bourbon Street, and I when I say that I thought a bomb go off at 3:30 in the morning. I really thought it was. Started freaking out.
It reminded me of our New Year's Eve in Memphis when we actually did hear gunfire, but we've had a good time down here in New Orleans, a lot of work. We hope you've enjoyed what we provided you from here. Sorry we couldn't provide you a happier ending to this story, but what a story it's been for the Kansas State Wildcats over the 2022 football season. They end the year with that loss to an impressive Alabama team that seemed to wake up at the end of the first quarter and then eventually kick the living snot out of Kansas State. But you know what? The Wildcats were 10-4 this year. They're the Big 12 champions. And in fact, TCU, the team they beat, you pick up a little shine from them as they advance and make me a gambling winner for once in my life by beating Michigan. And they will play for the national championship. And that's kind of where I want to start, Cole. But first, remind everyone that our sponsor this year, as it's been for many years now, is Caddyshack Golf. It's a locally owned, K-State-owned business. They're based right there in Manhattan. Get online. It's Caddy with 2 C's, caddyshackgolf.com. Go check out their merchandise. Golfing season isn't far away.
It's not.
It's not. Because I know you golf freaks. When it turns 45, 50 degrees in February, you're going to be out at Colbert Hills or whatever your chosen golf course is, trying to sneak in around. Zach, I'm talking about you on the podcast. So make sure you go get something really cool to remember this season by from caddyshackgolf.com. Cole, look, Alabama wins 45-20. I just finished my post-game grades. I should have probably done them last night. I wasn't responsible. I was just done, Cole. Get off my back. And, yeah, it's just amazing to me. Kansas State came within a whisker of going up 17-14 at halftime. 17-14. And over the next less than 3 minutes of game action, Alabama scores 21 points to turn a game that potentially had been 17-14 at half into a 35-10 trouncing at the 13-minute mark of the third quarter.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It really reminded me of watching the Chiefs play, but even more than that, it reminded me of watching the Golden State Warriors when they had Kevin Durant, when they had Stephen Curry, right? You know, these guys, it seems like it's close. You seem like you have them on the ropes. And the next thing you know, they're blowing you out.
Yeah.
This Alabama team woke up, and I made the comment that Alabama team that played on Saturday can win the national championship. Right. I don't think that Alabama team that played, there's anybody that comes within at least one score of them. After watching Georgia and Ohio State play last night, I don't think either one of those teams beats Alabama. And as much as I love TCU, I don't think the TCU team that we've seen all season would have been able to beat the Alabama team that played on Saturday. They were just absolutely ridiculously incredible.
Well, I have seen performances like that before. It reminded me of vintage Bill Snyder football. You know, Nick Saban's from the same era, so to speak. He's a much younger man. But it was something I've seen K-State do during the heyday of K-State football to lesser opponents. They put up a fight. They give you a window, and you jump through that window and absolutely annihilate them in a small period of time and completely take them out of the game. So credit to Alabama. They are everything you would think Alabama football would be. They did come and engage in this game. And while I thought Bryce Young might make a small appearance in the game, the Alabama fans are right. He played the whole game. And he was absolutely brilliant. That might have been his best performance of the season. That might have been Alabama's best performance of the season. After a sluggish start, I honestly think they didn't quite expect K-State to be as effective. And K-State was effective. K-State moved the ball. They ran for 200 yards or so in this game. The running backs did at least. And it was just one of those games where they took advantage of Chris Kleiman's gambling. And maybe that's where we should start, because fans want to blame Chris Kleiman for this. And I would not have onside kicked that ball. I wouldn't to start the second half. But I get what he was after. He rolled the dice the entire game. And you are a brilliant gambler when the dice fall in your favor, and you're a total idiot when they don't. And none of that really is in your control. For most of that first half, K-State converted third and fourth downs. They made aggressive play calls, and it all came out in their favor. And then at 4th and 2, at the goal line, some say you should have kicked the field goal. You were down 14-13, even if you make that field goal going into halftime. And that's not the mental makeup that Chris Kleiman wanted for his team. He thought, and I would agree with this, if you're leading Alabama at halftime, you are energized, you got the momentum, let's see what happens in the second half. Go for it on 4th and 2. The play works. It was the right call by offensive coordinator Colin Klein. Now, Ben Sinnott did get hung up just a little bit on the defender. There was a little contact there. There might have been a grab. I haven't seen the replay. But he did clearly get disrupted. But Will Howard told me after the game, I knew the second I let the ball loose, I missed him. And he said, that is my fault. He got hung up, but I should have put the ball right on him. I shouldn't have tried to lead him out there. They missed that play. And then K-State stops Alabama on first down, and Chris Kleiman does what you do in that circumstance typically. You call the timeout. You want to pin them back and trust your defense that you're going to get it done, get the ball back, and maybe you do get to kick that field goal that you missed out on. But this was Alabama. This was Bryce Young. And next thing you know, they go 98 yards. Onside kick fails. Touchdown. Will Howard throws a nice pass. Honestly, I don't think his receiver competed well enough for the ball, and the Bama defensive back stepped in there with some nice coverage. But folks, for all of you who said Will Howard reverted, he did not revert. He played an extremely good defense. He got hit on his first interception, and he was just a hair off on a couple throws, including the one at the goal line, including that one, I think it was to Malik, that Alabama showed their excellence and made big plays.
And there were some drops in there too.
Yeah. I mean, Ben Sinnott dropped a touchdown pass, and that's just something that kid doesn't do.
Yeah, and I think if we go back to that moment when they went for the touchdown on fourth down, that was absolutely the right call. Again, I've had some people talk to me already, immediately after, why didn't they take the points? Why didn't they take the points? And it's like, what does 3 points do against Alabama? Yeah. Again, I compare them to the Chiefs.
You're not beating them with field goals.
Because you can't. I mean, you cannot beat a good team with field goals, and especially when you drive down. I mean, that was a long drive, Fitz. It was, 6 or 7 minutes? And
the one before half?
Yeah.
It was 10 and a half minutes.
10 and a half minutes. I mean, that's incredible. You cannot kick a field goal on that, because that is a win for the defense. You got to finish with points, and with a touchdown. They didn't. But again, I agree with the timeout. I do. And again, there's going to be people that criticize that move, but I come from the stance of this. Do you trust the Big 12's best defense? The answer to that question is yes, every day of the week. And Bryce Young proved why he's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft and be in the same conversation with Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all these quarterbacks.
Elite throws.
He proved what he was going to do on Sundays for years to come. K-State ran into a buzzsaw on Saturday, and it showed, but Chris Kleiman made all the right decisions. Again, onside kick, maybe not so much, but he's trying to win the game. If they get that, and then they go down and score a touchdown, the game is completely different.
So you just said exactly why I disagreed with the onside kick. And Chris Kleiman put his defense in a position to stop Alabama at the end of the first half and get the ball back and get points. And that's exactly why I kicked the ball deep. Trust your defense to get the ball back, just as they had done on the first possession of the game. Instead, Nick Saban takes the back-to-back, that deadly back-to-back possessions that Bill Snyder used all the time. It is exactly why he deferred every time he won the toss. He wanted to get those back-to-back possessions because that puts the possession count out of kilter, and that puts you in a position to have more possessions than your opponent. And that is hard to overcome if you're a good offense. That's exactly what Alabama did. And then it gets, magnified by the Howard interception, and off they go. But you know what, Cole, to K-State's credit, I didn't feel like Alabama backed off. I thought Nick Saban wanted to run it up. He looked like a coach. He was still throwing the ball aggressively that wanted to make a statement that they should have been in the playoff.
That's exactly right.
And I get it. If I'm in his position, I'd do it too. It was frustrating to watch, but I would have done it too. We got left out. We feel like we should be in. After watching the games, I think Alabama clearly could have been in, but they hadn't earned it on the field. Those 4 teams belonged in.
Yep.
What Ohio State did was remarkable, even if they came up short. But K-State didn't wilt. They kept coming. They kept playing. That's a good way to end it. I mean, that's a good way to wrap up your season. You didn't give up. You can't set a tone into the offseason in which you gave up. And Kansas State didn't surrender. They just got whooped on the field. And as credit to Chris Kleiman's program. But as he said so correctly, Cole Carmody, at the end of the game, you can't let one moment define you. You have to let your body of work speak for you. 10-4 Big 12 champions. This season put K-State ahead of the curve in which we thought they were on. They advanced as a program maybe a year ahead of what we thought. Now, I thought this was a team that could compete for the Big 12 title. Did I really think K-State would win the Big 12 title? Well, I sure as hell didn't pick it at the start of the season. So that's how much I thought. I thought they could compete for it, but they did it. They did it kind of in a broken road traveled way, but they overcame some losses to Tulane, good football team, Texas, a good football team, and of course TCU, a great football team. And they did beat TCU. Have the potential to be the only team that beats TCU in a national championship year. And folks, I just want you to stop and think about what I just said. TCU is in a position to win a national championship. And Kansas State did beat them this season in a really good game. And TCU can't say, well, we didn't play well. That was a great football game on December 3rd in Arlington, Texas, and K-State was the better team on that day. By a whisker, but they were the better team. And so on the right day, with the right performance, K-State could be in TCU's position in a very short matter of time. But Alabama is Alabama. And when the Tides show up to play, and that was impressive. It was impressive. What a bunch of freaks running around the field. And credit to Nick Saban. So often when you get those elite players, you don't get them to buy in. And that's why he's the greatest. He gets those kids to buy in. I don't know how he convinced those kids to come back to play. And granted, they're getting paid. I mean,
$3.4 million for Bryce Young NIL.
Bryce Young's
highest
getting
of any player in all of college football.
Is the second highest member of the Alabama football program behind Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. But credit to them. And in meeting those players, I think we were all fairly impressed with them. They seemed a little bit dismissive of K-State, but they turned out to be right.
Yeah, I think what's insane is the talent gap I, for the upperclassmen. I really don't think is that different. College, you only get 4 years to play, But I would go out and say the Felix Anudike-Uzamas, the Deuce Vaughns, the Cooper Beebes, these guys that are going to play at the next level, in 3 years, they're going to be just as good, if not better, than those guys that they were going up against from Alabama. It's just the development process. Kids come to Alabama ready to contribute immediately. Right. Those 4- and 5-star recruits that consistently come to Alabama, they're ready to play and make a large impact the day they step foot on campus. For this class and these past few classes that K-State has gotten, that's not necessarily the case. That's not a bad thing. I look at it like this. Kobe Prentice, true freshman for Alabama, scores a touchdown in the second half of the game. K-State has 3 freshmen on the field. Redshirt freshman Omar Daniels, true freshman Jake Clifton, true freshman VJ Payne. All 3 of those guys missed tackles. Kobe Prentice takes it to the house, scores a touchdown. That is the difference in stars. That is the difference in recruiting. That is the difference in rankings. That is not a bad thing for K-State. That says nothing. Because in 3 years, for all we know, Omar Daniels would be able to guard Kobe Prentice one-on-one and be like Julius Prince. Right. That's. I'm not saying that can't happen. It's just the difference between K-State has to develop their players longer. It's a longer process than it is at Alabama, where these kids can come in and immediately take the place of Jahmyr Gibbs, immediately take the place of Ja'Cory Brooks, and have an immediate impact. It doesn't happen at K-State, but again, with the transfer portal, with NIL, everything is completely different now. K-State can be back in that position, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me if, when there is an expanded playoff, K-State is in that position to play Alabama again sooner than people probably realize.
Well, I hope you watched my post-game walk and talk, because I asked a couple of the players a really awkward and weird question after the game. And credit to the guys that came out and talked. This team's been a pleasure to cover. We'll get to that in the second half. I asked them if this could be a good thing. And I said, because you know where you stand now. You had an opportunity to compete with Alabama. That got away from you, and it ended up into what was really a blowout loss. You know the gap now between you and the very top echelon of college football. And Ben Sinnott and Will Howard both said, yeah, we got to go back to work. We're going to take a little break. We're going to get healthy and refreshed mentally, and we're going to go right back at it. Because I feel like these guys are going to come back almost intact. We will see what they announce. Nobody would say if they were staying or going. Deuce Vaughn didn't bite on your question. Mm-hmm. Felix Anudike-Uzomah apparently had promised an answer and didn't provide it after the game. And we're hearing a lot of rumors about Cooper Beebe, and the seniors are going to come. Cooper Beebe as a junior is going to come back, and the seniors are wanting to come back for their COVID bonus year. We'll see how all that plays out. And maybe the magnitude of the loss will inspire them to come back, or maybe move on and go to the NFL. These kids have big decisions. They're their decisions. I honestly, if I back out of this and say, you know what, what's best for the kids, I think all 3 of the kids that we know could be going to the NFL a year early should probably go. Deuce Vaughn isn't going to get better. He is what he is. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is, on the cusp. I think maybe his draft stock has dropped a little bit. He might actually benefit from coming back. And Cooper Beebe, young man, I know you want to play with your brother. I know you love K-State football. I know you want to continue this process. But offensive linemen have a shelf life in the league. And, if you're Bryce Young and you're getting paid $3.4 million for that senior season, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. Of course, Bryce Young isn't a senior. But if you can come back and make millions of dollars, which I don't see happening, that's one thing. But, boy, you're not cheating yourself out of your first year. You're cheating yourself out of your last year of professional football, because those knees, those hips, everything about an offensive lineman break down. So we'll see what decisions they make. We'll be on top of that. There's a lot of rumors about that O-line's coming back, something Cooper fueled this week with talk about if one guy comes back, I think we all will. And I think they all will. But onward and upward for Kansas State football. And what I like the most as we ended the first half here, Cole, is I don't feel like this ended a run in any way. If you look back last year and you look at Iowa State, what they've gone through, Baylor, they were peaking at the end of their run. They loaded up for that. I don't feel like Kansas State loaded up for this season. I feel like it's another step on a journey that Chris Kleiman has laid the foundation, and this program's going to build on it.
They had to have this loss, in my honest opinion, to know, you mentioned it, where they are. They know where they stand. They know where they need to get better. More importantly, the coaching staff now understands what it takes to win at the highest level. They've won national championships, but again, there's a difference between winning national championships at the FCS level and winning them at the FBS level. There is a major, major differential in team speed, in team size. How do they fix that? Now they know where to look. They know where to improve. They know what they need to do in order to compete at that level. Folks, they're not that far off. They're not that far off. To me, that was the biggest thing. Those two teams belonged on the same field together. Alabama was the better team that day, but K-State, like you mentioned it, any given Saturday, any team can win. K-State very well could have won that game. They didn't. Back to the drawing board, onward and upward, as you mentioned. K-State is going to come back hungrier, and I'm already excited for next season. I really am.
I agree. And as I said last night with the walk and talk, sometimes your worst days, in hindsight, turn out to be blessings. We'll be right back.
This is Kansas State's Daniel Green, the leaders in K-State sports coverage. We'll be right back with more of the PowerCat Postgame podcast.
Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's doctor-designed program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
This is Kansas State's Felix and Yudika Uzama. Welcome back to the PowerCat Postgame podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast, the Sugar Bowl edition. We're still in New Orleans. Cole and Zach will be advancing out of this bracket to the Austin Regional for basketball. They will fly out tomorrow. We all were going to do that, but not Cole. I said Cole.
I know. That was news to me.
Yeah, Zach and Michael will be going on to the Austin Regional to cover basketball on what day is it? I don't even know what day it is, Cole. I'm a mess.
Tuesday.
Today is Sunday. You will try. Yeah, right. Well, they're going to go cover basketball, folks. That's what I'm trying to say. We all were going to do it after this because the flights were so expensive to get back. But as you know, I get to call Southwest Airlines and rearrange everything today. But Cole and I will be driving my car back because it made the trip to New Orleans. I hope it's still in the garage.
Yeah.
And we'll be heading back maybe even this afternoon. We haven't decided. It's all fluid. We can do what we want to do. We're young and free, Cole.
Maybe check out some Civil War history along the way.
We might. Vicksburg, we're coming for you. Let us in, man. I mean, you've got a history of not letting people in. And people that don't know the Civil War just were baffled by that.
Yes.
But they will go on to do that and then head back to Manhattan after Kansas State plays Texas in basketball. And then Zach and I will turn around and come right back to Texas on the weekend for Kansas State and Baylor. Honestly, a game typically we wouldn't probably cover because of the expense of travel and all that for one basketball game, but it is Jerome Tang's homecoming back to Waco now as head coach at Kansas State, so we will be there. Folks, if you missed it, and I know this is the football post-game podcast, but boy, I hope you got to see that basketball game. They stunk at the start. They just did not play well. David Gasson was out with an injury. We're told they don't know the longevity of it. It is not season-ending. Thank goodness. K-State didn't have the roster numbers. This was my concern when he wanted to redshirt so many people that they would run out of bodies, and they might have to pull a redshirt if they get another injury. But that team persisted and found a way to come back and beat West Virginia in overtime. They kind of blew the lead at the end of the regulation. They came back and had a lead up to 5-6 points there, and West Virginia got it to overtime, and then K-State took over business, even though they were really shorthanded with only 7 guys and a lot of foul trouble. They were a couple fouls away from having to play a walk-on in that game, which wasn't going to be good. But Kansas State gets Jerome Tang's first win, and it is the fastest start, according to, I think it was ESPN Plus, the fastest start for K-State basketball in a season in 13 years.
Wow.
So he's come in and done something that the previous coach couldn't accomplish, which is remarkable. Things are really positive around K-State sports right now. So don't let what happened in this game steal that joy. Don't let outside forces steal the joy.
Don't let opposing fan bases, like the team down the road, the fan base down the road, steal your joy either.
Yeah.
I've seen that on Twitter a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah. Well, one of the weirdest things, I had one of our subscribers sent me a DM from, don't be this type of fan. I'm imploring you, don't be this type of fan. He received a DM from a TCU fan last night after TCU had just won a semifinal game, making fun of K-State for losing to Alabama. Can you imagine taking the absolute high point of your football program success and turning it into something negative to talk trash to another fan base because they had the gall to beat your team the game before? Don't be that fan. Don't be that miserable of an existence kind of person that you can't even enjoy the moments because you're so sour about stuff. So don't be sour about this loss. It sucked. I know. A lot of you were upset. I even saw Chris Kleiman isn't the guy. Come on, folks. Let's stop with this nonsense. It does amaze me that some of the things, how you react to stuff, a select few people, the overreactions are incredible. Alabama was really good. They're really talented. And I am telling you, Bryce Young made a throw in the course of this game to the back corner of the end zone over the top of Julius Brents that was nothing short of brilliant. It is not possible to throw a better pass in a live game than that pass.
He was covered too. That was great coverage by Julius. He put that ball in a bucket, and again, felt like I was watching Patrick Mahomes. I really did. I mean, he was remarkable. He just was remarkable.
Yep, and Alabama earned that win. K-State, rolled the dice, as I said. Boy, sometimes you roll the dice and you make a lot of money, and sometimes you get craps. And they hit craps at the end of the first half and then rolled it a couple more times, and pretty soon all that money they'd built up was gone. And as a blackjack player, Chris Kleiman started the second half by splitting his sixes trying to get ahead. And you know what you're going to do? You're probably going to lose your shirt. And they did. And that's okay. You know what? Here's the thing. And here's something you need to understand. Well, first of all, let me say this. I respect Chris Kleiman incredibly. He is a brilliant young football coach. And young, by that I mean he's younger than me. He knows how to put together a team, a program. He's doing all the stuff that Kansas State football needs to be successful. And now he's cranking up the recruiting with this class. They have to continue. They can't be satisfied with that class. They need to get into better and better players' living rooms and start reeling those in. You can't jump ahead. As Bill Snyder always says, you can't skip steps. And honestly, I think Bill Snyder on recruiting skipped some steps. He tried to go from getting the developmental players to the five-star players, and they didn't succeed. And he still will talk about that and how it set the program back. You got to slowly climb that ladder, get into better living rooms, continue to upgrade your roster. But I'll say this, he comes from a background of winning, not just winning a lot, elite winning. He was Alabama. And with that comes a lack of experience in managing timeouts and deciding, when to make the big play, when deciding I've taken too many chances, my luck's running out. And we still see this growth process for Coach Kleiman as he learns, as he goes, because he's not been in this position to be the lesser team very often in his career. As a head coach, certainly, because in Fargo, they won 4 national championships in his 5 years. And with that, you don't get some of those tight game issues that you do when you're the lesser opponent, and you certainly don't get your ass kicked by a better, more talented football team, because that's always you. So there is a growth process here. We're going to see it with Jerome Tang in basketball. You don't just step into a new job or a new role with a full understanding. Sometimes you're going to walk into the wall and realize, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else. And we got to go along with him on this journey. Now, if he's a coach that doesn't acclimate, doesn't learn, doesn't improve on things, then it becomes worrisome. But I don't think that's going to happen. This is one of the most self-aware head coaches I've ever been around. And what I mean by that is he knows his faults, he accepts his faults, and he's trying to learn from them. But he's not so arrogant that nothing is ever his fault. I see some coaches still be that way, and that will end your career pretty quickly. You have to embrace what you've done wrong. And, last night when he said we called the right play on the 4th and 2, we just didn't execute, he's not throwing the players under the bus. He's saying, I didn't have my team ready to do the right thing, the right time. The players embrace. I mean, if you want to just back up, the players didn't execute the play. The play was right. They didn't quite do it. And that's just the reality of the game. I don't know if you expect Chris Kleiman to say, I missed through the football.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what happened. So just try to find the positivity in this year. Because honestly, 10-4 is a really good season. It's hard to win double-digit games. Matt Campbell, it's really hard to do it. It's a big step at this level to do that. And he's done it in year 4 at Kansas State. There's more ahead. This program's not going anywhere. And what I like about Chris Kleiman is if he sees something that needs to be fixed inside of his program, he's going to go fix it. Even if it's his best friend, even if it's a longtime colleague with whom he has a great relationship, if he needs to make a change, he'll make a change.
What's incredible is we were talking to Cade Warner after the game, and he mentioned the exact same thing you said. He said, I love Chris Kleiman because when we win, Cade Warner's obviously talking about the team. He said, Cade Warner says, when we win, it's because of us. But when we lose, it's because of him.
Yeah.
That, to me, tells you everything you need to know about Chris Kleiman. He tells the players that they're the ones who won the game and that his staff is the reason that they lost the game. Now, of course, that's not obviously the case. But you're right. He said, we didn't execute the play. But guess what? I guarantee you there are plays where the players have covered the coaches' behinds. They called the wrong play, but because Will Howard scrambled out of the pocket and threw the ball 50 yards down the field and Cade Warner caught a touchdown, or Sammy Wheeler burst through coverage, they scored there's so many things that happen on the football field where the players pick up for the coaches and the coaches pick up for the players. Again, you talk about complimentary football all the time. That goes with the coaching staff and the football players. But I think that, again, the culture we talk about with this team is real, and I know we harp on it. But Fitz, it's going to be the reason why, if we see the Cooper Beebes of the world, the Deuce Vaughns, the Felix and Udike Uzamas, if these guys want to come back, it's not going to be because of any other reason besides the fact that they want to spend more time at Kansas State. They want to spend more time with their teammates because they understand and they think that this moment in their life is more valuable than starting their NFL careers a season early. They truly believe they would rather have a chance to play with those guys for one more season than move on. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I just feel like those guys, if they do come back, are coming back because of the culture that Chris Kleiman and the players have set. And even if they decide to move on, the fact that they're even considering returning really tells you all you need to know.
I agree. The final topic I want to talk about, and of course it's not going to be a long podcast. I mean, you don't want me breaking down this game too much, do you? The final thing I want to talk about is the kids that won't be returning. The Daniel Greens, the Cade Warners, the ones that have used up their time or know it's time to move on. It's been an incredible pleasure to cover this group of young men. And I was blessed to cover a lot of Bill Snyder teams. I started covering K-State football full-time again in 1995. So I've covered a lot of football at Kansas State. And one of the things Coach Snyder did so well, for the most part, was bring in really good kids, put them into a good family atmosphere, give them a lot of structure, and they would come out the other end of the process a much better product. And that's, not uncommon in a lot of programs. You grow up when you go to college, but he would set up a whole system that was intended to make his football team better by making the young men better. And Chris Kleiman is replicating that in his own way and doing it his own way. And his attention to detail in recruiting, that they're going to go target really good kids that are also really good players. And for all that Bill Snyder did right, by the end of the process, he was more focused on the good kid than the good player. They couldn't quite get the level of player that they needed. And honestly, the program was slipping, and the change was made just in the nick of time, if you ask me. But for now, at least, Chris Kleiman is out there getting really good kids to come in that fit into the culture, fit into the locker room. And even if maybe they've got some things about them that need to be improved, they get poured into the format, into the mold of K-State football players, and they come out better because of it. Cade Warner is a perfect example. Comes from a great family, a football family. And I appreciated Cade. The Nebraska guys, him and Adrian, have been so careful not to take shots at Nebraska because they did have an opportunity there, and things didn't go as the way they wanted to. And they like Scott Frost, but they know that it was dysfunctional at times. They know now how dysfunctional it was because Cade flat out said, I came from a place that didn't have this.
Yeah.
And this is special. This is really special. This is a brotherhood. We are going to be bonded for life because of what this season and what this locker room's been like. It's rare. It's really cool to watch. And, I come back to him. I come back to, some of these, again, walk-ons just like Bill Snyder had that have now developed into really good players. And but I look at a guy like Daniel Green, who was really rough around the edges. I didn't know that Daniel would make it academically or like just socially at Kansas State. Comes from Portland, Oregon, and came from, just I don't think academics were a real driving force for him because he barely got into to be qualified to play Division I football. He's one of my favorite kids I've covered because of the transformation he has made as a person and as a man. And, you can look at him and, he still wants to look tough and hard, but he is a kind heart, a good man. And Michael Goins asked him about, taking off the jersey for the last time, and it kind of hit home for Daniel that was about to happen because when he spoke to us, he was still wearing his game clothes. And he had to go back into the locker room and take it off for the last time. So best wishes to all those guys that have committed so much to K-State and been part of the culture because, over the last post-COVID, the 21 and 22 teams, this is Chris Kleiman's foundation. Mm-hmm. These are his guys that laid the foundation for what he wants the program to be. And I honestly think Chris Kleiman's going to be here a while. There's one job that I think he might take to move on to, but Iowa, stay away. I think he and Gene Taylor want to make this something incredible. You do it at Kansas State, it's different. If you can do it at Kansas State, you didn't do it at Alabama. You didn't do it at Nebraska or Oklahoma. And Sonny Dykes is showing that maybe TCU and Fort Worth's the same way. It's notable when you do it someplace where it's never going to be easy. And that's the process he's got him in.
I think that Chris Kleiman, the job that he did this season is completely remarkable. And I think you look at the foundation of those guys with Deuce Vaughn leading the charge. That is Chris Kleiman's guy. He sat up on the stage and said, I recruited this guy when nobody else wanted him. Maybe that was a little hyperbole, right? But I think it's true. I think K-State fans need to look back on this season as the season that started everything. I really believe that. This is going to be the year. Are they going to win the Big 12 championship every year? No. But can they consistently win 9, 10 games, win a Big 12 championship, make a run in the college football playoffs? I'll keep going back to this. With the 12-team playoff now, anything is possible. You throw in the transfer portal, and teams like TCU, who have utilized that portal, can be on the biggest stage. Go back and look at this season. See all the things that transpired. These guys set the foundation for where K-State wants to go. Did they lose in the Sugar Bowl? Yes, they did. But the guys that played in that game that will be coming back, the guys that didn't play in the game, like the Sterling Locketts of the world who are going to be here for the next 4 years, had that understanding of what it takes, what it takes to prepare, what it takes to win. Those guys on that team, I guarantee you, the young guys are going to go back and talk about this season. If they continue to progress the way that you and I both think they will, this season is the season that they're going to go back and say, this is where we really took off as a program. This is a launching pad. This is not a destination.
Well put. Boy, I sound like hell today for a guy that didn't go out partying on New Year's Eve.
I think you were crying.
I think that was it. I was just crying.
You're crying when the season's over.
Folks, it's just beginning for K-State football, and you're a K-State fan if you're listening to this podcast, and if you're not, thanks for listening. So let me end with a little more old man Fitz wisdom. It's time to turn your attention to K-State basketball. Get locked in on Jerome Tang. Something special's happening over there, too. This is just literally the baby steps of what his program might be like at Kansas State. I want to see K-State fans pack Bramlage Coliseum when they get back home. They got a couple road games here. I think it's Oklahoma State is the next home game.
Next Tuesday.
Get in there. I know you're tired. I know you need a break. I know a lot of you have to drive 2 hours or more to get to a K-State sporting event. Please do so. And again, if you can't make it to a game, I know you all want to sell your tickets and make a little more money off of it because we're all in tight times here, but get someone in your seat, even if it means giving them to your neighbor, giving them to a kid, giving them to someone, a soldier. Get people in that arena. He deserves it. Basketball is going to be fun. It's going to be a wild roller coaster ride. I think it's going to be an enjoyable roller coaster ride as opposed to the past where it was kind of beat the snot out of you. This is a fun team, a fun program, good kids again. Let's see what you can do as fans and support your team. And I'm going to also say this. Chris Kleiman, like me, is not a spring football guy. Not a spring football game guy. Mm-hmm. I think spring football games are good for the fans, but not good for the growth of the football program. You get 15 practices, and to use one of those on a scrimmage in which you're trying not to show a whole lot is less than ideal. And so he has not had a game. I would ask that Chris Kleiman and Kansas State Athletics consider not having a game, but having a full-fledged event. If there's one thing John Curry and Ron Prince did right together, boy, I didn't think I'd be bringing up those names on this podcast, was the Spring Fest that they would have. They literally had a carnival come to the K-State football parking lot. You've got incredible facilities now with the Shamrock Zone that most fans haven't seen, the indoor facility that no fans have seen, not significantly number of fans, and other things going on at Kansas State. Open the doors to the family. Have a carnival out there in that east parking lot. Do something, and have maybe some kind of almost like a contest between the players, whether it's the quarterbacks or throwing contests or the players lining up to run sprints to see who's the fastest guy on the team. Do something like that. Put together a whole bunch of things that you can use, maybe not your last day of Kansas State football practice in the spring, but maybe your last hour. And let the guys go in and shower and come back out and sign autographs until the fans want no more. Let's get this bond going. Let's get this thing back to where it has been, because the world of college football and the world of fandom for everyone has changed so significantly since Bill Snyder lit this fire and took this team to the Copper Bowl in 1993. You now can comfortably sit at home. Cole and I mentioned it last night watching the TCU game. It's a better experience in so many ways watching on a high-def TV with replays, analysis, a rules expert popping in. So when you come to a game, you aren't just investing your time and money. You're investing yourself. Mm-hmm. You're actually sacrificing some of what could be a more quality experience in other ways to come to the game, and that should be rewarded. You know, if you really wanted to know and you really wanted to see everything and experience everything, 50,000 of you would go to a game on the road at a bowl. There was about, I'm saying 25 here. Mm-hmm. It was as what I thought it would be. And even with all the travel issues you faced and everything else going on, you still got here.
And you were allowed to.
And you were allowed. I think it surprised Alabama. I think they literally thought because they could drive 5 hours, they're going to dominate that. And the crowd sounded 50-50-ish. It's hard for where we were sitting to completely tell. And maybe it was more 60-40 because they were essentially the home team in this game, even though K-State was technically the home team in whites. It was the captains voted for the white jerseys, if you don't know. So what you do as a fan base, you were small, but you were mighty. And it's amazing to cover K-State football, K-State sports with athletes like this, but mostly with fans like you.
Amen. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Get your butts into Bramlage. This is a fun team to watch, too. That's the only thing I'll add. I mean, if you want to see dunks, go check them out. You want to see three-pointers? Go check them out. You want to see your head coach wah-bashing with the students after a win?
Did it again.
Go do that. I don't know how Hugs felt about that. I can't see Hugs doing that.
Oh, no.
Could you imagine? Could he take the stool out there and sit on it and do the...
Nobody wants to see Hugs dance.
No, it's been a great year, and enjoyed it. Happy New Year to everyone as well.
Happy New Year. We will be heading out on the road. If you see a dark gray Dodge Durango broken down to the side of the road and an old man weeping, it's me. Please stop.
What am I supposed to do?
You just laugh. Just laugh, because that's the best thing to do. When times aren't as expected and as good as you think, you got to find a way to laugh at it. Alabama kicked K-State's ass in the Sugar Bowl. Get a good smile out of that and realize that only means better days are to come.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Power Cat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
This is Sandra Herrera from Attacking Third, a podcast part of the CBS Sports Golazo Network dedicated to all things women's soccer. With the NWSL expanding to 14 teams, the 2024 season promises to be bigger and better than ever, and Attacking Third will be along for the ride from start to finish. Before that, though, we'll be all over the CONCACAF W Gold Cup, where the U.S. women's national team is looking to clinch silverware on home soil. We'll also be keeping tabs on the winter transfer window, the Women's Super League, the UEFA Women's Champions League, and elsewhere. Coming to you multiple times a week with game previews, recaps, analysis, breaking news, exclusive interviews, and more. Attacking Third is your one-stop shop for the best coverage of the women's game. Download, follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere podcasts are found. Make sure you subscribe to Attacking Third.